Coming up on BBC London tonight, a tragic story of bullying. After being relentlessly bullied by boys at school, an inquest concludes into the death of 14-year-old Mia. Her father tells us of his devastation.
I don't have a future. I will not be able to see my daughter in a few years' time being an architect, having kids. I will not be able to be a grandpa.
Mia's family exclusively give us the heartbreaking final voice note she sent to a friend. We'll play that to you. Also tonight, the head of the NHS wants all London children to get vaccinated against measles, as some parts of the capital have the lowest uptake of MMR in the country. A teenage boy is detained for the manslaughter of pensioner Gerald Netto in Hanwell. The victim's daughter feels justice hasn't been done. And back to the 80s, the London pop star who says her band were the original Spice Girls. You can make your own mind up. Good evening. An inquest has today concluded that this 14-year-old girl, Mia Janin, took her own life after being relentlessly tormented by boys at her school. It was the Jewish Free School in Kenton in northwest London. Well, BBC London has been in close contact with Mia's family over the past year, and tonight they gave us the last voice note Mia sent to a friend before taking her own life. In it, Mia talks about her fears, about going back to school, and about being bullied. The school insist big changes have been made. Now, I must warn you that what you're about to hear at times is distressing, and you may find hearing Mia's final voice notes very upsetting. Our investigative reporter, Guy Lynn, has this exclusive story.
14-year-old Mia had good friends, loved cheerleading and her dog Lola. But in March 2021, on the night after she returned to school post-COVID, she took her own life.
And suddenly I heard a very horrible scream from my wife. Supposedly, she's supposed to be downstairs doing the breakfast because she called Mia and she didn't answer, went to the bedroom and she found Mia in the bathroom.
The inquest heard how Mia was repeatedly bullied by boys inside and outside the Jewish Free School, or JFS, and online. This voice note to a friend before she died was released to BBC London, the very last recording Mia made on her phone.
Tomorrow's going to be a rough day. Stand by me. I'm taking deep breaths in and out. Whew. I'm currently mentally preparing myself to get bullied tomorrow.
She was very funny, like just always making jokes.
I met Martha, her closest friend at JFS, who told me about bullying at the school.
When I think back on it, a lot of my whole friendship group were picked on, but Mia, obviously, it was to a different extent. It was like by popular people, so it would feel more, I guess, intimidating, because she'd be like, they'd be calling her name, or they'd be like making fun of what she said, and like just taunting her, really, just making fun.
At the time of Mia's death, JFS School had dealt with 2 other student suicides since 2017. The school told us the leadership has now changed. Improvements taken place since Mia died. Mariano's faced an uphill fight to get answers about those days leading up to Mia's death, including what was said about group chats on social media.
Discovered that she was bullied, relentless, on the street, on presence, on the school, on social media. It was horrible.
Just a few months after Mia died, tragedy struck Mariano again. His wife and Mia's mum, Marisa, died from leukemia.
My life stopped completely. I don't have a future. I will not be able to see my daughter in a few years' time being an architect, having kids. I will not be able to be a grandpa, and not even be able to be with my wife.
The coroner today concluded she took her own life after being bullied by boys at her school. Mia Janin, just 14. A child, said the coroner, with her whole life ahead. Guy Lynn, BBC London.
And if bullying is an issue you or someone you know is experiencing, please don't suffer in silence. Support is available. We've pulled together a list of organisations who can help. You just need to search for BBC Action Line. The details and telephone number are on your screen now. Let's leave it there for you for a moment to make sure you have what you might need. Other news now, and London remains at high risk of a measles outbreak. It's spread by coughs and sneezes, often starting with sore eyes and a cough. The impact can be severe, which is why the NHS is urging parents to get their children vaccinated urgently. Some parts of London have the lowest take-up of the MMR vaccine in the country. Here's our health correspondent, Carl Mercer.
Once you have this one, it gives immunity for 25 years, okay?
25 years.
3-year-old Catherine has come for some travel jabs at this doctor's surgery in Hackney, a few weeks after having her second MMR injection.
She's up to date with all the other vaccines, isn't it? We boosted her, the preschool boosters and all that, so she's had the second MMR, yeah?
Yeah.
You know, because there's an outbreak of measles, we need to make sure that she's protected.
Yeah.
You know?
For her and her mum Ty, it's just part of growing up and part of helping to protect her sister Carla, who has to be fed through a tube. But not enough people in this area, or indeed across London, have had the MMR jab.
Does it concern you that maybe a lot of people around here don't have vaccinations because your other child is more vulnerable?
Yeah. You know, because I think the doctor, they take a lot of long time to make like a vaccination, you know, and why not to try? Yeah. It's more benefit, so I don't mind to try it.
Quick scratch. Okay, my darling. Okay, sweetie. Okay, done, baby.
Doctors in London are concerned that low vaccination rates could see a large outbreak here.
We know that for measles you need 95% coverage of the MMR vaccine to keep it at bay, and we've got quite a big gap in that. So we are worried that it's going to come to the capital, and when it does, it will affect potentially hundreds or thousands of children.
Across the capital, around 74% of children have had 2 MMR jabs, well below the 85% level in the rest of the country, and well below the 95% rate needed to stop outbreaks. Last summer, the UK Health Security Agency warned London's low rates could lead to between 40 and 160,000 cases in the capital.
It's not a minor illness, so people can end up with things like deafness, disability, pneumonia, and meningitis, and it can even lead to death in some cases.
What they want is for more people to take notice of the many posters being put up in doctors' surgeries across London. And soon. Carl Mercer, BBC London.
Well, we have plenty more news on tonight's programme and also sport.
Spurs have a proud home record here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Manchester City. Can they keep it going tonight and claim a place in the FA Cup 5th round?
It's been a week of emotional testimonies from those affected by the Grenfell Tower fire in 2017. Grenfell Testimony Week, as it's been called, has been a 4-day event aimed at giving the bereaved, survivors and local residents the chance to speak freely to those organisations and companies that they hold responsible for what happened. Let's hear from some who spoke while executives and politicians listened.
On the 14th of June 2017, I escaped from the tower with my family. You will hear how they were repeatedly told to stay put until it was too late. They made, in total, 6 999 calls. One lasted 59 minutes and 44 seconds.
There is no word to express it. It is very sad, a child to witness his mom going in front of you, dying in front of you.
Hopefully our testimony and that of others this week will help affect some change to institutional attitudes and behaviours, both in the private and public sectors.
If it wasn't for the cladding issue, none of us would be in this room today, and 72 people would still be alive.
I want each of you to know what I have been through, how much I have suffered. The reason I'm here today is because I hope to bring a change in the culture.
This is what Logan's life would have been. This is what our life would have been like. This is what you've taken away from me.
Well, our reporter Aisha Baksha is here. You followed Grenfell Testimony Week and what's been happening. What did you make of it?
I said it was a very intense week for all of those involved, sharing their personal impact and reliving the trauma of what happened to them. And some have never spoken publicly before, and some still remain cynical that was it all worth it? Others saw it as an opportunity to speak out to people that perhaps usually would hide behind, in their words, their lawyers or their press officers. And I asked some of those who spoke today, did they feel it was worth it? This is Shahrokh Oglani, who lost his mother and his aunt in the fire.
It enables us to, get things off our chest that actually continuously we have to deal with the feelings. It's important to get a change in the culture of those people, and I've asked them today what they would do to bring up, to make a change so Grenfell doesn't happen, and I will be waiting for their answers.
Well, I said it's hard to ascertain when and what those answers will be. I mean, I was in the room for a lot of that testimony, trying to sort of gauge the reaction of those who attended. And I contacted the defendants, as they were called, through their press officers, and I was given a series of different responses, telling me about the senior executives that attended, how they found many of the testimonies very powerful, how many of the groups are helping the public or have helped the public inquiry and will continue listening to those concerned. I mean, the big question, I think, for so many who took part in this week, as it has been all along with Grenfell, is are the companies, are the public bodies, politicians really listening? Will the inquiry's recommendations be implemented when the report comes out? And will there be prosecutions? As one of those people said to me today, publicly, to all of the representatives on stage, the community will not give up. Now it's your turn to deliver.
OK, Aisha Baksha, thank you. A teenager who attacked a pensioner on the street has been detained for manslaughter for 12 months. The boy, who's now 17, violently shoved Gerald Netto to the ground in Hanwell. Well, the boy was allowed out on bail after pleading guilty to manslaughter, but then broke his bail conditions. Mr. Netto's daughter says the family feels her father's death wasn't worthy of justice. She spoke to Alex Dakovic.
My dad was such a good soul. He had a heart of gold. He touched many people's lives.
Gerald Netto was known by his family and friends as someone who could build or fix just about anything.
He was a qualified electrician, helped the elderly and never charged for the work that he did. We've had him snatched away from our lives in one night.
In the early hours of the 19th of March last year, the 62-year-old left the Duke of York pub in Hanwell, West London, after a quiet drink. He then crossed the road to chat to a group of young people.
He shakes hands with one of them as he arrives in the scene. He's just decided to talk with them.
A 16-year-old male, who we cannot name, began to taunt Gerald.
The defendant decided to pull his trousers down, which is a humiliating juvenile thing to do. It resulted in a disagreement and Mr. Netto falling on the ground twice.
The teenager then approached Gerald from behind and pushed him to the ground.
This isn't just a shove. This is hooking someone's foot in and then violently shoving him from behind.
The impact of Gerald's head on the ground caused a traumatic brain injury, which triggered a heart attack.
The defendant just skips over the body and just runs off down the road.
Gerald was taken to hospital. He died later that day. The teenager was arrested within an hour of the assault and charged with murder. He later pleaded guilty to manslaughter and was allowed to return home.
The judge made the decision to remand the defendant into the care of the local authority, which would mean he would spend time at his home address under the care of his parents with a number of conditions attached to them.
But the teenager didn't stick to these conditions.
He's been on tag and he's breached twice. On both occasions, he was just given a verbal warning and he returned home.
Jennifer is now campaigning for more stringent bail conditions for young offenders.
We were made to feel that my father's death wasn't worthy of justice. The justice system has favoured the defendant over the victim.
Maybe we can add another big one.
Okay, let's add another big one.
Now Gerald's family say they are struggling to cope without him. He helped care for his grandson, Messiah, who has cerebral palsy and autism, and was the primary carer for his elderly mother, Mary.
It's been really hard on my mum to then bear the responsibility of looking after my gran. My dad used to help lift and carry her daily, and now she doesn't have that support. We really miss him.
Alex Dakovich, BBC News.
Well, now for a brief look at some other news in the headlines today. The Metropolitan Police firearms officer charged with murdering an unarmed black man in Streatham nearly 18 months ago will be named. The BBC and other media organisations challenged the officer's application to protect his identity after the death of Chris Cabba. The anonymity of the officer, currently known as NX121, will be lifted on the 1st of March. Police have released details of a woman they want to speak to after a baby was found in a shopping bag in sub-zero temperatures in Newham last week. Baby Elsa is now in foster care. The woman that officers are looking for is black and was wearing a large dark coat with a light-coloured scarf or hood. Transport for London says recent disruption on the Central Line has been caused by an abnormally high number of motor failures. It said the problem was down to the fleet being more than 30 years old and among the least reliable on the tube network. TfL warned the problems may continue for months to come. Tomorrow is Holocaust Memorial Day, with events planned all over London. Landmarks, including the London Eye, will be lit up in purple. It's a moment to remember the 6 million Jews murdered in the Holocaust, as well as people murdered in other, more recent genocides. Frankie McCamley has been meeting some of London's Holocaust survivors.
Vera and Iva may be relatively new friends, but it's their history that connects them.
My husband had been in concentration camps and had just survived alive. And so did Iva.
While they were in concentration camps, Vera was sent from Prague to England on the Kindertransport.
When I first arrived in England, I found myself absolutely shocked by Liverpool Street Station, which in those days was dirty, and I thought, I'm never going to be collected.
She was taken in by an English family but never saw her parents again. Both were killed in the Holocaust. The only memories she has are a few items they hid for her.
This necklace, which I had as a child, and this was a bracelet that I wore as a child.
The only way to save precious memories at that time was to hide them, something survivor Hannah knows only too well.
It was my father's, mother's, and they buried some photos and stuff because they wanted to leave a trace.
Her family were all marched to a labour camp in Adampol in Poland when she was 5 years old. One by one, her relatives went missing or were killed, including her mother, who had the chance to escape but didn't because Hannah was too sick to leave.
Mama was very calm. She got on her knees. She took me in her arms. She gave me a huge hug and kiss, and very quietly went to the door, opened it and closed it firmly behind her.
Instead, when soldiers bashed on the door, she hid her daughter and went outside.
They started to shoot, and I saw her fall, and I saw the blood on the snow, and I knew I mustn't make a sound. I knew why she did what she did.
Iva was sent to Auschwitz at 12 years old.
What happened to your family?
I came a family of 11, 5 brothers, 4 sisters, and out of all of us, out of the 11 of us, mother and father, there's only me and my brother Alec, who was 2 years older than me, survived.
Nearly 80 years on from the end of the Holocaust, Iva, Hannah and Vera's painful memories are still hard to share. They hope some good will come from talking about the past at a time when many around the world are still suffering. Frankie McCamley, BBC London.
We're heading to North London now, where one of tonight's 4 big FA Cup fourth round games is being played. Chris Lake is at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium with the latest on what we can expect. Chris.
Yeah, some Tottenham fans are already here too, Assad. They love this stadium. I'll tell you who doesn't love it. Manchester City and Pep Guardiola. They've lost all 5 of their visits to this stunning arena. They haven't even scored a single goal. Quite something given how strong a team they are. Now, of course, the Tottenham manager, Ange Postecoglou, learnt a thing or two about winning trophies in Scotland with Celtic, where he won 5 of them. Much harder for him to do that down in England, but Spurs fans desperate for him to end their 16-year wait for a trophy. He insists that he's taking this cup tie as seriously as any Premier League encounter.
You shouldn't have a different attitude or outlook to it, because the beauty of cups is the upsets they produce, and they produce upsets because maybe you don't take the same attitude. So for me, it doesn't matter who we play. Every cup game is a game where there's only one result that will help you advance, and that's a win. And irrespective of your opponent, that's what you have to do.
Well, several other intriguing ties involving teams from our region this weekend. Also tonight, Chelsea against Aston Villa. Chelsea already through to the League Cup final. They'd love a cup double. Tomorrow, Luton visit Everton, and it's Fulham against Newcastle. Fulham trying to respond from that League Cup semi-final heartache. And on Sunday, the 2-time runners-up Watford take on Southampton in an all-championship clash. Here tonight, though, the tie of the round, Tottenham against Manchester City, and you can hear live commentary on BBC London Digital Radio. Assad.
Yeah, that's going to be a great match tonight. Thanks very much for that, Chris. Now, over the past few months, we've heard some amazing stories as part of BBC London's series, The 32. It highlights colourful characters across our 32 boroughs, and this week is no exception. We're in Havering to meet an 80s pop star who says her group were a decade ahead of the Spice Girls. See if you recognise this track from 1983.
My name is Sheen Duran. I used to be a pop singer in the 80s. Toto Coelho is Latin, and it means heart and soul, all in the heavens, root and branch. We actually got a gig in the King's Road called The Main Squeeze, and we did a late set there. And in the audience was Barry Blue, who was a top producer. I got a phone call from him at 3 in the morning, and he said, Sheen, I've written your first big hit. The song's called I Eat Cannibals. I said, you what? I eat cannibals. Feed on animals. Your love is so edible. To me, I eat cannibals. When I formed the girl band, I had a picture in my mind, and I said to the girls, you watch, in a year, we're going to be on top of the pops. And it happened.
Hello and welcome to Top of the Pops. Who's sold out then? To start the programme, yet another one of those ensembles with a funny foreign name.
We were very theatrical and we wore stupid clothes. You can see in our choreography, the way we did interviews, we were very much about women doing what women should do, be leading in the charts, which was great, and 12 years later, the Spice Girls come along, and it was like looking at us. And people say, gosh, you're the original Spice Girls. I eat cannibals. God knows what it's about. Still don't know to this day. But who cares?
Well, thank you to Sheen for that. And I do remember that song. Time now for the weather forecaster with Sarah from that picture behind you. I mean, that sums up how lovely today was at times.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really nice to see the blue sky, hasn't it? And the sunshine. It has felt a little bit fresher out there than recent days, but yes, we've had the sunshine to compensate as well. So this was the picture a little bit earlier on Chelsea Embankment. And actually, as we head through the course of the weekend, we've got a bit more of the same. It's looking predominantly dry and settled, not just through the weekend, but actually into next week as well. Some sunshine by day, but with these clear skies, some pretty chilly nights out there as well. And actually, we're seeing the temperature drop quite quickly already out there at the moment once the sun has set. The breeze just fairly gentle. It's coming in from a south or southwesterly direction. So with that recipe of reasonably clear skies, fairly light winds too, it is turning a chilly enough for some of us for just a touch of frost around first thing tomorrow. So temperatures down to around about freezing, and there could be a few misty, foggy patches as well, but they should clear away pretty quickly once the sunshine gets going. So another dry day to come tomorrow, a bit like today, plenty of sunshine around. I think later in the afternoon, with that breeze picking up from the southwest, you'll just notice a little bit more cloud drifting across the capital, but still some spells of sunshine and highs around about 9 or 10 degrees out there. And then as we head through into the second half of the weekend, then just subtle changes. Again, a chilly start to Sunday. A little bit more cloud drifts in from the west as we head through into the afternoon. But with that southerly breeze, it will lift those temperatures a little bit higher. So we're looking at maybe 11 degrees or so into Sunday, and then that warming trend continues into Monday. So another largely dry day, variable amounts of cloud, but there'll be some sunshine around. And during Monday afternoon, look at those temperatures well above average, so 14, possibly 15 degrees or so. And then looking through the rest of next week, so further ahead now, there will be areas of low pressure, mainly drifting across northern parts of the UK. For us, it's high pressure to the south that's going to be dominating things. So this is the outlook over the next 7 days or so. And you can see a lot of dry weather, some sunshine around at times, fairly light winds, and those temperatures will be on the rise, Assad.
Yeah, after some of the weather we've had in recent weeks, that's a real relief. Look forward to it. Thanks very much, Sarah. Well, that's it for now. Lakshmi is here with our late news at 10:30 on BBC One. But if you fancy listening to some great radio later on tonight, your local BBC radio station has the talented Kath Melandri sitting in for the equally talented Joanne Good. You won't go wrong if you tune in from 10. Whatever you're doing this weekend, have a very good weekend. Bye-bye.